Hey, it's Tuesday. You know what that means? Pat Welsh here. Taco Tuesday. Take action, crush obstacles. Welcome back to Warrior Servant Leader Podcast, episode 10. It's going to be kind of a barn burner, I think, for some folks. I'm glad you're here. And I want to give a quick shout out to our great supporters at Law Enforcement Today, Blue Lives Matter, and Police Tribune. Thank you, and keep being warrior servant leaders for our brothers and sisters in blue, our first responders, all those who support us at work, at home, and in the community. Well, let's just jump right in. Today's episode is kind of a wake-up call for all of us, me included, because as I was preparing for this and thought back on my career, I saw some pretty glaring failures on my part. And it's about time we start getting radical in law enforcement, in our thinking, in our acting, and in how we talk. We're going to talk about the obstacles that we face personally and professionally in becoming warriors, servants, and leaders at home, at work, in our communities, in our faith life, and how we can respond to those obstacles and crush them. So, today's topic, it's time law enforcement got revolutionary. That's right, it's time law enforcement got revolutionary. You're probably thinking, revolutionary? Has Pat lost his mind? You might be right, but probably for all the wrong reasons. What does it mean to be revolutionary? If you look it up in the dictionary, Merriam-Webster's dictionary, which was the best definition that I found and that I adopt, if you will, is revolutionary is constituting or bringing about a major or fundamental change. And yes, I believe it is time for law enforcement to bring major and fundamental changes to how we think, how we talk, and how we act, and how we serve and protect our communities. So you're probably asking, okay, Welsh, what are you talking about? What kind of changes do we need to make? Well, actually, there's quite a few, but I want to focus on this Taco Tuesday, this Take Action, Crush Obstacles Day, and first identify what are some of our obstacles. And there's a lot, but I want to kind of just concentrate on what I think are the top 3 or 4. And right at the top of the list is mindset. How we think and the attitudes that we display in our actions is probably right at the top of the list. It's been a long-standing thinking in policing that kind of goes like this. We're the police and you ain't. You're not one of us. And we develop this mindset over a period of time of us versus them. 99% of us, when we came into law enforcement, if you were asked, why do you want to be a cop? You gave the same response I gave and the thousands of cops before you and after you have given. We want to help people. It's not us versus them. We want to give back to the community. We want to be protectors. We want to be servers. We want to help. Ask somebody that's been on the job for more than 5 years and go, hey, why are you a cop? And see if they still say it's because I want to help people. I'm betting it's not going to be 99%. And they're all going to have different answers of why they are still in policing. And if we're honest with ourselves, over time during our careers, we start distancing ourselves physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually from our friends, our families, our communities, our neighborhoods, and our faith life. Quite frankly, I do believe that for cops, this is almost an element of human nature in that we respond to insulate ourselves psychologically and emotionally to keep us from going off the cliff based on what we see and what we have to do and what we have to deal with day after day. And if you do it for over 20, 25 years, it takes a toll on you. I get that, and I went through that the 26 years I was on the job. And I'm not proud of it. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you an example of that insulation. My partner and I, we went through the academy together, and we were on this call. We get a call of an overdose in a housing or a apartment complex, a low-income apartment complex. And fire, when we got the call, fire was on their way. We were actually at the United Dairy Farmers, UDF, think 7-Eleven with ice cream and stuff. And I had just fixed myself the perfect cup of chocolate mocha coffee. It was half coffee, half hot chocolate, and I topped it off with a very healthy dosage of whipped cream, and it was at the perfect temperature when we catch this call on an overdose. So my partner and I, we pull up. He was driving. I get out of the car, and I'm going, hang on a minute. I'm not leaving my coffee in the car because it's going to be cold when I get back. And medics are already there, fire engine's already there. So we go out to the apartment, and they're working on the person. And I'm standing there sipping a cup of coffee with hot chocolate and whipped cream and really enjoying it. Not really giving a crap about the person that is overdosed. That's an example of how we start to insulate ourselves, and we lose a bit of our humanity. We lose a bit of that compassion and empathy. And I think we naturally do it because it is a psychological defense mechanism. So I get that. I also get we have to change that. That's one of the major fundamental, radical, revolutionary things we have to do is change our mindset. We need to learn how to cope with stressors but on the job and off the job, physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. We need to take back what is stolen from us during the course of our careers. And I do mean it's stolen. We don't intentionally or voluntarily want to distance ourselves from people, not want to give a shit about our jobs and helping and giving back. But just over time, it eats away at us. I remember a call, and quite frankly, I'm blessed that I was not on it because I have no idea how I would have reacted at the scene and during the course of the investigation. But I do know the officers and the lead homicide detective that handled this is a lady was high on dope, had a newborn baby, and put the baby in a microwave and hit start and killed her infant child. We shouldn't have to see and deal with that. And it affects our mindset. It affects us physically, psychologically, spiritually. And it's time we have a revolution response of how do we change where we're destined to go if we just keep taking the same path we've been on all these years. Which leads me then to the second obstacle to that is strategy. We need to be strategic thinkers, planners, and activists. Yes, activists, and I mean in a good sense. All too often, our job in law enforcement and first responders, whether you're a medic or a firefighter, you're a hospital emergency folks, you're not a first responder, but you're in that loop with us. We're reactionary. We're not proactive. We're reactionary. The calls for service, the citizen complaints we get, the investigations that we have to do follow up, are driving how we react. And then you throw in there, if you have a community where you have biased media, or just take on the national level, bias reporting, politicians, social justice activists who may or may not be well-intentioned, lawyers. I mean, the list goes on of people, it's almost endless, who all are screaming for our attention. They're all screaming for solutions. They're all screaming for obedience. You've been there, you've been that. You're on a traffic stop, and the first thing out of their mouth is, I pay your salary. I own you. And I want you to do what I think you should be doing. And we get that 24/7. And over a career, it takes its toll. So seldom do we have time to invest in strategic thinking, quality time, to invest in strategic thinking and planning, to actually become proactive in making our agencies a better place to work, and making our communities a safer and better place to live, and to have better relationships with law enforcement. And we don't have quality time to invest in strategic thinking of how we can make our homes a better place to grow and thrive as a real family. We are often more involved in the lives of criminals, the courts and the agencies that we work for, than we are with our own families. And that's a huge obstacle we need to crush. And I'll tell you, again, I'm not proud of this. Years after I retired, my wife, we're coming up on 45 years being married. She shared with me that over the vast course of my career, 13 years of it, which was spent on midnights, she felt like a single parent raising our 5 kids. That's not a compliment. I spent more time investing time and resources and energy on my job when I was off duty, often more times than I was spending with my family. It actually happened. She reminded me one time when we were on vacation, Hilton Head, South Carolina, on the beach. I took a frickin' call from an informant and spent probably a half hour, 45 minutes talking with an informant instead of investing that quality time with my wife and kids. So we need to be revolutionary, major change, fundamental change, and take control and be activists at work, at home, in our faith lives, and in our community lives, our neighborhood lives. Some folks will call that living intentionally, and I think that's kind of a good concept to adopt. None of this happens by accident or what do they say, organically. No, it takes intentional living on your part. And that story about with the 13 years I was on midnights and not being present for my wife and kids, I intentionally took calls. I intentionally worked overtime. I intentionally chose what I did as a career over who I was supposed to be. And that's a difficult pill to swallow, but we have to face it. And that takes some radical changing in how you think and how you act and how you talk. It's really imperative that you radically address and organize and prioritize your life. Indeed, if you're one of these people that says, what are your priorities? And you go, faith, family, friends, and you put them in that order. It's a struggle at times to stick to that, but often it's a jingle that we repeat when somebody asks us as a cop, hey, what are your priorities? Faith, family, friends. But then we don't act like it. We don't live it. And here's a big wake-up call. You can't do it by yourself. You can spend hours upon hours upon hours of your work life working solo. You're a one-man crew. Maybe you're in detectives. Wherever you're at, and you were brought up with this mindset, if you want it done right, do it yourself. That's the way I was brought up. I get all that. Radical change. You can't do it solo. You have to find community in your work life, in your personal life, in your faith life to successfully journey through life. You probably have money in your pocket right now. Pull out a dollar bill or whatever and look on there and it says, in God we trust. Maybe it's time we started to believe that and started living it. And by the way, faith journey is not a solo journey. Christ had 12 apostles, close-knit community. You can't do it by yourself. So journey in community with others, and not just in your faith life. You've heard the adage for parents, hey, look at the 5 closest kids your kid hangs out with. Their 5 closest friends. If their 5 closest friends are little turds, your kid's going to be a turd. But if their 5 closest friends are good kids, good hearts, they have common sense, they are just a joy in a way to be around, then that's how your kid's going to turn out. Because that's human nature, is to become what you are hanging around with. Take it at work, man. You hang around all the people that are always bitching and complaining, you're going to be a bitching and complaining employee yourself. So, some other things on this issue of faith. I'm recording this where it's Holy Week in the Catholic Church, the Christian faith, and it culminates in the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And one of the things that I reflected on in preparing for today was this past Sunday was Palm Sunday. And I started looking at the people that were involved in Palm Sunday and leading up to Good Friday, because the readings Sunday included the Passion. And here's, in sitting down and intentionally reflecting on it, here's some things I came up with. Judas betrayed Christ, and he was on the inner circle. He was part of that community, that close-knit community. So you're going to pick people that may be bad apples. That's okay. But you have to have community. And then Judas suffered the consequences of his own betrayal. Look at Peter. I mean, he was the top dog, number 1 apostle. Became the head of the Catholic Church in the 1st century. He denied Christ 3 times in a matter of hours and then ran away weeping bitterly. How about the crowds? They were screaming, crucify him, crucify him. After Pontius Pilate says, the dude didn't do anything wrong to be put to death. We don't care, crucify him. So there's that community mindset. How about the in the scripture, the words were used, his acquaintances, actually on Good Friday at the crucifixion, people close to him, including family, friends, disciples, followers. They all watched from a distance. Who was the only one that closely participated in a positive way during this whole Good Friday ordeal? A total stranger. Simon of Cyrene was forced into taking the cross and walking it for Jesus. The dude lived 850 miles away from Jerusalem, and we don't know why he was in Jerusalem. He could have been there for the Passover. We don't know why, but he was plucked from the crowd and forced to lend aid and assistance to Christ. And as far as we can tell, he didn't bitch and moan, he didn't complain, he didn't refuse, and he did it. And then the last person is a guy they identify as Joseph. Joseph was of the Jewish council in Jerusalem, the ones that voted to take him and Jesus into custody. Although he did not vote for it, he kept his mouth shut. And after it was all over and the dust had settled, so to speak, literally dust, there was an earthquake that day, Joseph quietly and privately goes to Pilate and says, "Can I have his body so I can give him a burial because the Sabbath is starting?" Every one of these people had a fear factor. They were genuinely afraid. I get that. And I've shared this in the past. There's two types of fear. And one fear is forget everything and run. The other form of fear is, even though you are in difficult circumstances, places you don't want to be, having to deal with issues you don't want to deal with, and you have this fear factor, but your fear stands for face everything and respond. So, how are you responding? How in your life now, of all the obstacles you're facing, at work, at home, struggles in your faith, how are you responding? And I encourage you, and this is radical because we are so stubborn at times that we won't ask for or seek out or accept help. And even in the good times, how many cops get an attaboy publicly? And sometimes, a lot of times, it's heroic action, Medal of Valor kind of stuff. And what's the officer say? "Hey, I was just doing my job." No, you weren't. You were doing way beyond what was expected of you by risking your own life, or whatever it is that you're being commended for. We have adopted this solo mindset of suck it up, move on, and you're just doing your job. And when you get called on the carpet or your morale sucks, you're down in the dumps, whatever it is, you just want to be left alone. I think that's part of the nature of the job, I think. I had all those same kind of responses throughout my career. And I've come to the realization we radically have to change that mindset. Surround yourself with folks that don't step away from their family or some other outing and take a call from a informant while they're off duty. So, I mean, sometimes there's emergencies. If you're on call out, then yeah, you got to answer the phone. But live intentionally. And if you truly believe that it's faith, family, and friends first, then start living that way. And it'll take a lot of the stress that you're now suffering under, and it'll start minimizing it. And it'll make things better at work, at home, and in your community. One of the big things, and I talked about this several weeks ago, everything begins with the thought. How you think breeds your attitudes, and an attitude is a settled way of thinking. You display those attitudes and behaviors typically, and then those behaviors, if you keep repeating them, they become your habits, and that becomes your culture. It's time to revolutionize how we think, talk, and act in law enforcement. And it begins with how we think. And you're going, hey, you just shared all that before when you're talking about mindset. Yeah, well, here's a principle. Repetition's the mother of all learning. The more you hear something repeat it, the more likely you are to believe it and probably follow it. Give you an example. How'd you learn your ABCs? That stupid song. Now you can't get it out of your head. That's how you learn, was repetition. And then it became a habit. It became natural. It became automatic. You could repeat it. You wouldn't have to go look it up. You wouldn't have to think about it. Well, guess what? We need to do the same thing as when it's our mission and vision statement at the police department, when it's our mission of our family life, when it's our faith life, our mission. It should be right there on the tip of our tongue, and you should be able to repeat it and have it memorized, and you're living it, and you understand it, and you believe it. And so when I say that we need to revolutionize how we think, I'm talking in that arena. It's not I'll get around to it tomorrow, or hey, I go to church every Sunday, isn't that good enough? No, it's not. We need to revolutionize how we think, because that forms our attitudes. Our attitudes become our actions. Repeated actions become our culture. They're our habits, and they become our culture. And I think it's time we start expecting and accepting that type of mindset in the workplace. If you turn a blind eye to a problem, eventually you'll be blind in both eyes. And right now, we're the blind leading the blind in a lot of things. So take that quality time to strategically think and plan, and do it with people that surround you, that you surround yourself with, that are like-minded, and bring about the changes in your department that will make it a better place to work and will make it a better agency at protecting and serving your communities. And this is going to touch a nerve. For decades, people have been saying that. You need to change the culture of policing. For decades. 40 years ago, I heard it. We need to change the culture of policing. And 40 years later, we're still hearing it. And we're still getting the same complaints by the community, by the politicians, by the activists, by the media. It's like things haven't changed. Here's things we did that we thought, oh, we're changing the culture of law enforcement. Let's see, we did broken windows. We did problem-oriented policing. We did community-based policing. We did de-escalation. We did diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we haven't solved the fundamental disconnect between the community and law enforcement. Why haven't we? Because we've never done it strategically. We have not addressed how we think and how we can do better. We come up with programs. We come up with rules. We come up with regulations. We come up with punishments. But we have not come up with addressing how we think. We have not come up with addressing how the community thinks, because a lot of the things they think about policing are wrong. They don't understand what we go through and the job we have to do and how we have to do it. There is no nice way to politely arrest a violent felon. And as long as we protect their constitutional rights, sometimes it's going to get ugly. And we get that. And the community doesn't. They don't think that's appropriate. So we need to address how they think. Last point I want to make. Iron sharpens iron. You've heard that. Iron sharpens iron. I did a little research on where's iron come from? What and why does iron sharpen iron? There's even an old biblical Old Testament proverb, Proverb 27, that says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another." Ooh, that's a good analogy. What the heck does it mean? So I did a little research. Understand this. It takes incredible heat to smelt iron so that it can be formed into tools and weapons. That's ancient Old Testament. Go back way back then, thousands of years ago. You have to, in intense heat, put the iron ore to smelt it so you can shape it into something else. In their case, it was tools and weapons. It also calls for a precision craftsman to know how to do that, both the smelting and the forming of the final product, including extracting impurities, to get the stuff out of it that's going to make the iron brittle if it's left in it. And so iron ore goes through a lot of stressors, if you will, to become something positive and productive for the community, for the soldier back then, for the farmers, all those kinds of things. And that's why they say a well-crafted iron knife can sharpen another iron knife that's dull. It's still a knife, it's just dull and it's not productive anymore. But if it's put to the influences of a well-sharpened iron knife, it can be reshaped into a new and productive tool. It's a better knife once it's sharpened. And that analogy is the same between how a man can sharpen another man. And I'm not talking gender. I'm talking, generically, how one human being can sharpen another human being. And we need to start intentionally paying attention to that principle and applying it at work, at home, and in our communities and in our faith life. So we must sharpen each other. And some days you're going to be the sharp knife. And some days you're going to be the dull knife that needs sharpening, to be renewed, to be literally shinier, to look brand new. And we're dependent on each other to make that happen. From infancy to old age, to survive and thrive, we need one another. So how do you do that? This is the final challenge. How do you do all this stuff I just shared with you? By encouraging one another, by praying, by standing up, showing up, and defending what you believe. That's called being a warrior. By putting the wants and needs of others before your own, but I don't mean at the expense of your family. But you need to be a servant. You need to have that mindset that you are not solo. You are not, if you want it done right, do it yourself. You need to be able to have that humanity, that compassion, that empathy, and be able to see the suffering of others, whether it's at work or in your personal life, or see the needs of others, whether it's at work or in your personal life, and do something about it. There's a Dayton cop. I read this article. This was not during my career. Since I retired, there was a Dayton police officer in the last year or so, was on a call that it was a stolen lawnmower. And the complainant was a 9-year-old kid. Somebody stole his lawnmower that he was using to earn money as a 9-year-old. The officer could have just taken the complaint and told the kid he was sorry that this happened to him. He didn't do just that. He took the complaint and then he went to, I don't know, Lowe's, Home Depot, wherever he went and bought a $400 push mower for this kid, brought it back, and just gave it to him. That's servant leadership. That is a warrior mindset. He stood up, showed up, and defended what he believed. He wanted to help. He had compassion, he had empathy. That's how we should all be thinking and acting. And going not above and beyond, and you're getting an attaboy for it. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons. So we need to be sharpened by others to have that mindset. And at times, we're going to be that sharp knife, sharpening a dull knife that has just kind of lost their way. So, be revolutionary. Let it start with you. It'll take time, but it'll be worth the effort. So, that's it. Taco Tuesday. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Download, comment, give some reviews. We're growing. As of, I think it was yesterday, we're over 700 downloads. We're over 700 subscribers to the newsletter on LinkedIn, Pat Welsh JD, and we were pushing 700 downloads on our podcast, which for 5 weeks is I'm proud of, and I'm proud of you all for being a part of that. And thank you, and love you all. And I will see you next Taco Tuesday. Take care. Be safe.